So I've been in a bit of a Batman mood lately. Um, been doing a lot of thinking about Batman Arkham Asylum, the video game, and I kind of just want to talk about it for a little bit. So it is one of my favorite video games of all time. It's definitely my favorite superhero game of all time. Like that's not even a contest. Like Spider-Man for PS4 was great, but um, but yeah, Batman Arkham Asylum is definitely my favorite. It's my favorite in the Arkham series, and yeah, just how it revolutionized the superhero video game genre, how it revolutionized the video game genre itself. Just like I don't know who and what I would be without Arkham Asylum, and I think it's time I just talk about it and just explain why. I may or may not quote certain Batman movies. I will not spoil any Batman movie for anyone who hasn't seen um, 1989, Batman Returns, Dark Knight, The Batman. I won't spoil any of those movies. This is just strictly Batman Arkham Asylum. What it means to me, kind of why I got into Batman in the first place, and just what Batman represents to me. So, to begin, there's a scene from the show Breaking Bad that has been on my mind lately that kind of relates to Batman. Without spoiling Breaking Bad, there's a scene where Walter White, the main character, he's a chemistry teacher, and he's teaching his class about the word chiral, which is the Greek word for hand, and basically it explains how like your right hand and left hand are identical yet opposite. That's what chiral means, and in a way, Batman and the Joker are the same sort of deal. They are identical yet opposite. They're two sides of the same coin, and it's a very fascinating character to think about, and that's why people love Batman so much, because he is this deep, interesting character. He's not just a guy who puts on a costume and just goes beating up criminals. I mean, you can think of it like that if you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you just like Batman as just a superhero who goes and beats up criminals, that's fine. Honestly, that's how I always thought of when I thought of Batman. Like my whole like love for the character really started when I was a kid, but it wasn't until Arkham Asylum came out that it just became crazy. Like I would watch the cartoons, and I would like I had like action figures. I'd play with them. But then in 2010, so a year after Arkham Asylum came out, I had heard about this game for over a year at that point, but I was never able to get it. You know, money being how it is, and you're a kid without a job. So what are you gonna do? So finally, the game was available to be bought as a like a used copy. Don't know why I didn't know it. Used copy. So yeah, I picked up the game for $25, I think it was, used at GameStop, and my life was changed forever. Honestly, I played it on the original PS3, and I remember beating it maybe 2 3 days later. It's not a very long game, but when you're a kid, you kind of don't beat it as fast as other people do. And like that's when I became a Batman super fan. That's when I started getting the comics. I watched all the movies, and I started really thinking about this character, and like I started to become obsessed. And yeah, I just kind of want to talk about Arkham Asylum for a little bit because of that whole connection I have with it. So as always, this is not scripted or anything. So if anything's disjointed, I apologize. This is just thoughts. So Batman Arkham Asylum is nothing out of the ordinary in terms of Batman stories at first. It's the same song and dance. Batman captures the Joker, takes him to Arkham Asylum, That's the status quo. You get it, you know. If you read one Batman comic, you read them all, basically, or so you think. Of course, there's different Batman stories, but the very basic Batman story: he captures the Joker, puts him into prison. You know, basic thing. But then something happens. The Joker escapes, and he's let loose in this. Basically, well, it's treated as like it's I say an asylum, but it's almost treated as like a prison slash medical center. Like, that's what it feels like. You're just in an isolated prison, and you already feel so uncomfortable being there. And the game really puts you in Batman's shoes, and it makes you really think about what this character is. So this kind of brings to my whole identical yet opposite argument. So, when you think of Batman and Joker, there actually aren't that different of characters if you think about it. Both are theatrical, and both are pretty extravagant in what they believe is morally right, or what their moral code is. Batman, at his core, believes that everybody is redeemable. He believes that everybody has the capability to be good if they're led in the right direction. That's why he doesn't kill anybody. He doesn't want to be brought down to the levels of the criminals he fights. He wants to strike fear in them, even if that involves a little bit of violence. You know, he's not the police. He exists outside the boundaries of the police. So, you know, he beats these guys up, he puts them in prison or a medical center, whatever they may need, in hopes that they find their way and they become better people, because Batman scared them. Of course, Batman's presence escalates violence, and supervillains pop out, and Batman has to deal with this problem all the time. It's a constant attack on his own moral code. He morally believes everybody has the capability to be good, yet his own actions cause a lot of evil, and he has to deal with that all the time. And that's what this game is. Batman is trapped in Arkham Asylum when Joker breaks out, and the criminals that he put in there are now stuck there with him. So it's an interesting dynamic that now Batman gets to be trapped where he puts his criminals, and now he's in for like a night of fear, and he starts to second guess like if he's even supposed to be doing this. And it's very interesting to watch, or play through, I should say. Now, on the flip side of the coin, Joker's also theatrical. He also strikes fear in people, but in a different sense. He terrorizes people, trying to cause them to go insane, because he believes that society and rules and the structures of human society are all just like made up. He believes that everybody is just naturally crazy and evil, and if you push them hard enough, they'll start to do bad things. And he makes compelling arguments for this all the time. So you have someone who believes everyone can be good, and someone who believes that everyone is just naturally born with the ability to do bad things and evil. Both are not exactly wrong. Let me be clear. Joker's not exactly wrong. Batman's not exactly wrong. So that's why these two have such an interesting dynamic, that these two are constantly at heads with each other. So throughout the whole game of Arkham Asylum, like, Joker's testing Batman, making him go through all these trials of fear and trying to manipulate him into just going insane. And Batman, through the skin of his teeth, just barely gets out of there with his sanity, you know? And he's not the same. Like, he spends an entire night, like, battling for his life, battling for his sanity. And it's terrifying, yet interesting at the same time. You know? See, the most interesting thing about Batman and Joker, and I think that's what Arkham Asylum does the best in the Arkham series, City kind of does it, but more so at the end. But Asylum does it the best, and I think, and that is, it's the whole Batman and Joker actually, in some sick and twisted way, need each other. That they do. Now, Batman may say that he doesn't care about the Joker, but you know deep down he really does. He, above all else, just wants the Joker to get the treatment and get the help that he needs, because he thinks he, if he doesn't believe that, it goes against his own moral code, that he's no better than the people who believe that everyone are crazy. He doesn't want to prove the Joker wrong, so he catches the Joker and puts him into prison in hopes that he gets better, and it never does. It's an endless loop. And Joker doesn't want Batman gone because Joker is so interested in Batman, You have this moral code, a twisted moral code, but true in its own sense, that everybody, when pushed to the limits, can be crazy, can do bad things. And you got this guy who dressed up as a bat, jumping from rooftops, which in itself is a crazy thing if you think about it. It's crazy. So Joker wants, above all else, to just prove that he's right. He's just trying to make Batman see that he is right. And if it kills him, he's gonna just keep doing it because he's just so fascinated by Batman. How is this guy still putting up this act? He's thinking, let's just keep upping up the ante. Let's just keep trying to get this guy to break, At the same time, Batman, I'm gonna keep my moral code. I'm gonna just keep getting the Joker until one day he just finally gives in and just finally gets the help he needs. And they never do. It's just an endless loop. And I think it's an interesting discussion on just people in general, The whole yin and yang thing. Like, you can't have good without bad, bad without good, and within every good thing there's a bad thing, and vice versa. So, there's a reason why Batman and Joker are so intertwined with each other. They're archetypes of just purely good and purely bad. But not to say that Batman's a perfect character either. He has a lot of flaws, For better or for worse, he does not, break free from his moral code. Even if it means he loses family, friends. He becomes very attached. But Batman is a character of pain by nature, He's been in pain since he was a kid. And he takes that pain and he fights crime through that pain. That's how he copes with it. And Joker also clearly has been through pain. We don't always know why, and that's why he's so interesting. We don't always know why he's in pain. But he copes with it, trying to prove everybody that he's right. That's why Joker doesn't believe in rules. He loves corruption because he is corrupted. And Batman is incorruptible. That's what makes him a superhero. Batman is a human with no powers, but he's a hero because of all this stuff that he has to go through, and he still comes out on top, for better or for worse. He makes a lot of sacrifices. There's other heroes and villains in the Arkham series, but none have more of that true connection than those two. Obviously, you can't have one without the other. Arkham Asylum does have other interesting villains. Scarecrow, for example, it's never really clear in the game if Scarecrow and Joker are necessarily working together. I think it's just out of convenience. I think Scarecrow just happens to be in the asylum, and he's just naturally doing what he feels he should do anyways, but it goes with the Joker's plot of trying to turn Batman crazy. So a main theme of the game is fear, and Scarecrow is one of Batman's villains who especially deals with fear. That's his whole thing. He sprays Batman with fear gas, making him relive the thing he's most afraid of, which is his parents' death, believing that he is the reason why it happened, you know? So you as the player have to go through this whole trauma with Batman, and it truly is sad and scary and makes you feel all these things, you know, like this guy is just in so much pain, and yet he still has the ability to just tuck it in himself and put on the costume and just try to make the world a better place, you know? So Scarecrow is definitely a very key aspect of the game. And then there's characters that kind of test Batman's more physical and intellectual strengths. Like Poison Ivy is kind of more of a plot contrivance, just someone who kind of gets in Batman's way. She's not necessarily trying to kill him nor trying to help him. She's just kind of in the way. So that's more video gamey, you know, just someone that Batman has to get over. But she does have a few things to do with the game, more so in the sequel, but her whole like dynamic with the Joker kind of does go with the game, just not so much on a character like deep dive level. Bane is just more of a brute, you know, just a video game boss. They do Bane much better in the sequels. But yeah, it's an interesting series. It's an interesting game, and it's an interesting character, you know. I hope this little rant and ramble kind of just makes you think. You know, I play through this game at least once every year, give or take, just because of how much it means to me. Like, that's how I became such a big super fan, you know. If this game never came out, I don't know if I would ever even like Batman, honestly, because I was never really that interested in him as much as like Spider-Man. And Spider-Man is an interesting character too. I want to talk about him sometime too. There's a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences too. So, yeah, that's basically it. For those who haven't played Arkham Asylum, give it a try. It's on the original PS3, PS4. I don't know if it's on PS5. I don't think so. I think it's on PC as well. So there's a lot of different ways to play it. If you can, though, play it on the original PS3. I think that's just the definitive way of playing it that's my opinion. I think it just visually looks the best, and just the colors and the lighting of that game just puts you in the mood, you know? So yeah. It's interesting to think about in some weird way. It's almost like a relationship, you know? Like, kind of a toxic relationship where both parties hate each other, but yet they need each other. It's such an interesting dynamic. And if anyone is not into Batman, at least try that game out, or watch one of the movies to kind of get what I'm trying to say. But it's the games for me that kind of got me into the series of Batman, because it's just a fun game to begin with, you know, and just how much they put into it, you know. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you for listening.